So I sold my first private jet flight at 17, and as you guys can see, I'm back where all of this happened. I'm back at my parents' house in my little bedroom, or this cubicle, or whatever you want to call it. And I thought I would throw on the camera and just explain how all of this got started and how I got into the private jet industry. Since, listen, the private jet industry is so closed off to most people. Most people have no clue about how this really works. And I thought I would just explain a little bit, completely raw, and share my experiences, what I learned, and how I made this work for myself. So, with no further ado, let's get right into it. So I was a regular 17-year-old kid, I was going to school. I had a little part-time job to make some extra money on the side, but I didn't come from poverty, so I'm not gonna sit here and lie. I've seen this so often on Instagram. People just lie about, yeah, I came from nothing, had no food on the table, and I'm from the trenches. I'm super grateful for the childhood that I had, and I'm trying to be, fully authentic and real with you guys here. But yeah, I was living a normal life, and one day COVID hit, and everyone was stuck at home. And I was on my phone doom scrolling, and on Twitter, I think I saw this guy who was super mad about the fact that airliners stood still, so they couldn't fly, and all flights were canceled. But he was upset about that private jets could fly regularly, so the people who had the money could charter around the world, do whatever they want, and were not restricted at all, or less restricted. Let's put it that way. And he was so mad, and I didn't even think about this post. So I saw that, and a couple of days after, I on Instagram, I think I saw a company that posted a super super cheap private jet flight. Uh, this was just for timeline. This was in 2021, so still in COVID. And this company posted a flight from Milan to London on a small jet. It was a CJ2. And at that time, this flight was only $2,000, but the flight with departure in 2 days at that time. And I saw that, and even I had no really, I was making some money through my, restaurant job, but $2,000 was super, super cheap. And I saw that and I was like, how can I find a way, or how can I make money out of that? Or is there someone that could potentially be interested in this flight where I make some margin, a couple $100 or something? Is there something that I could, benefit of by offering this flight to someone and make a margin? And then I sat there and I was so amazed by how cheap this was, all right? So I figured, I contacted everyone I knew and I was like, hey, there's this super cheap private jet flight. It's only $2,000. Let's find someone, blah, blah, blah. And since it was in Milan, I mean, I'm not from Milan. I had a guy who was in a private network, which is more exclusive, let's put it that way. And I told him, hey, listen, there's this super cheap private jet flight. It's from Milan to London. It's in 2 days. It's only $2,000. Do you know anyone who could be interested? And he was like, yeah, let me have a look. I can offer it to these guys who are in this network. Let me see what I can do. I was like, yeah, cool. I didn't have any expectations, although I was, super caught up and super on fire, seeing such a cheap private jet flight. Long story short, he actually found someone, but instead of offering this flight for $2,000, we sold this flight for $4,500. So that's 2.5K in profit that we did here. He found someone who was fine paying $4,500 for this flight, which is still fairly cheap. So I've been doing this for 4 years now. 4.5K for this flight is fairly cheap still. Long story short, he ended up buying this flight. I was 17 at that time, so I wasn't even at legal age, so I couldn't even write an invoice. So what I did is they paid the operator or the owner of the aircraft. And afterwards, when the flight was done and everything was settled and they took off and landed, I asked my dad to write an invoice in his name to the owner for the amount, $2,500. And eventually they wired the amount to my dad. And looking back and sitting at this exact same spot, I can't even explain like the dopamine hit that I felt when this actually happened. Like I was 17, okay, I was doing all right. I was working here and there. I had a cool childhood, but making such an amount at 17 was, I can't even explain that. So this is something, even when I sit back on this chair, on this table, and thinking back, it's amazing. It's mind-blowing. And this was really the starting point for me. So this first flight really was like, okay, my mind completely shifted because I sat there and I just made $2,500 with literally two phone calls and a couple messages. And then I went to my dad and asked him, hey, could you write an invoice and send this to this company? He didn't even believe me. So seriously, like imagine me as a 17-year-old, no beard, nothing, my voice obviously wasn't the same back then. And going to my dad and telling him, hey, I just sold a private jet flight at 17. He didn't believe me. And it took some while to really convince him. But, after a while, he sent the invoice, and this was really my first deal and really the stepping stone for this whole trajectory of mine. Now I have like a full company and I sell private jet flights, way more. And But this first flight was such a moment I will never forget. And I thought I'd just make this video from this exact same table and on this chair and this whole background, just to share with you how I got into this space, how I do this, and how I still run this business to this day, just because there's such a huge demand for private jets. Back then, this was really my entry point into the industry, but now with all the millennials and Gen Zs, the course sellers, the drop shippers, there's just so much demand for private jets, and that's really, for me, in my opinion, this is an opportunity that I capitalized on, thankfully. I mean, I got into this industry by coincidence. I made my first money. I was blown away. I still didn't quit my job, so I still kept going. I didn't burn any bridges. I was still working my job, but I gradually, doubled down on this particular business. But after selling my first flight, there was like a certain period where I didn't sell anything, although I took things seriously and, got in contact with owners and really tried to sell more flights and put in the effort. But I had 4 weeks, I think, or 3 weeks where I didn't sell anything. But then I sold two flights in a week. Okay, so this inconsistencies happens even to this day. Where, I mean, I've been doing this for 4 years now, and I still have some sort of inconsistencies. Obviously, there are levels to the game, and this business is purely a numbers game. So if you really just focus on the big picture and think long term, then in any business, so not only particularly with this business, you can make that work. But maybe one key takeaway from this video, not to make it too long, what really shifted my mind completely and allowed me to make this money at such a young age is to sell to the rich. So I was doing drop shipping, I was doing social media and all of that. Sure, everyone did that, but the biggest constraint was money, since these are people that aren't completely abundant when it comes to money. But when I first got started selling to the rich and people who have money and who spend money and go to Ibiza and Mykonos and whatever, these people have money and these are ballers. um, when I started being in such an industry or dealing with these people, that's where everything changed for me. So if there's one key takeaway that you can take from this video, not the jets, none of that, not my history, not my story, if there's one thing, then it would be to sell to the rich, identify a problem where people, are craving a solution to this problem, identify a problem, find a solution, offer them the solution, and you're gonna get paid. And trust me, the more expensive the product or solution, the better. And yeah, I really hope this sort of helped you or made you click, something clicked. I hope that's really, because that's what clicked for me when I first got started. This thing that when selling to the rich, then it's way simpler and easier than dealing with people who are not completely abundant when it comes to money. So sell to the rich, identify a problem, find a solution, offer the solution, and get paid. So I hope this helps. And there's also a calendar link down below in this video if you want to hop on a call where you can discuss this opportunity about the jet business, or if you have any questions in general. It's for free, obviously. If that's, or the whole industry is relevant or of interest to you, then make sure you can book a call with me personally. It's free and we can talk. And yeah, If not, I'll see you very soon.